Okay, so now we are on to the middle child of the Sublime discography, or more of the underdog, or the lesser known albums of Sublime. Here we have Robbin the Hood. This is the band's second album, and the last one to be released featuring Bradley Noel in his lifetime, because the self title came out after his death, and that's been the band's latest album for almost 30 years. Now, they're still around to this day. There was even Sublime with Rome, which was basically Sublime with Rome Ramirez. But now they have uh, Bradley Noel's son, Jacob Noel, as the singer. Now, I say morely the middle class or the middle child of the discography because not many people are really familiar with this album. It came out in '94, and it really it really wasn't as big as the previous album or even the later one. Though it did help them get to the Warp Tour in '95, it still wasn't as well known. And even though it's been gold, still hasn't sold as much as the other ones. Even the reissues, it still hasn't received a lot of attention. Well, it has received a lot of attention by today's standards, but for the time it didn't. Now, much like the last album, this one was released through Skunk Records, of course. Here's the cover art. We got Long Beach, California, Sublime, Robin the Hood. That's something I should have mentioned earlier. I think that was one of the main reasons why it hasn't received so well is because of the production value. The production value is pretty much non-existent because they didn't have a lot of money at this time, so they recorded tracks using a 4-track home recorder, which basically like is used for demos and stuff, but they at least made it work here. Featuring Raleigh Theodore Sakers. Now I did a bit of digging into this and I found out that there was a actual person named with the similar name, but it had Rowley, like Rollie, not the one listed on here. It was like a newspaper article about the guy who apparently shot a woman for the fun of it, or as a joke. I can't remember. Correct me if I'm wrong, though. I'm guessing that's supposed to be Bradley Noel. I'm not sure. But they recorded a lot of these tracks in crack houses, except for one track. And I think that was in a studio in Long Beach, because that's where they're from. Here's the spine. Now, unlike the first album, the original Skunk Records did have spine text, but it was like flipped the other way. And of course, like the last one, this is obviously a Gasoline Alley reissue. There's the text. It's similar to the last one, but with different text. Yeah, you can see they really didn't have a budget for the album. You can even see the original Skunk Records on the bottom, but it did have a few notable tracks. Pool Shark, Saw Red, which actually features Gwen Stefani from No Doubt. Hell, Bradley Noel was featured on a No Doubt song. I think it was like Total Hate, I believe. I know it had something to do with Hate and was from the Beacon Street collection in '95. So later on, work that we do. There's actually two versions of Pool Shark, the original and the acoustic. I like the acoustic one more than the original. Cisco Kid, which I think is from the movie, and the Rally Theodore Sakers are part of these schizo rants and such. There's a lot more. I think there's a lot more in interludes. I think I could be wrong. There's a lot less like music and a little more other things. But there's good tracks in here. Fallen Idols ends with Rally Soliloquy Part 3. I think one of the tracks from the first one appeared. Let me take a look. I think it was Don't Push, I believe, as a hidden track. Lincoln Highway Dub is another notable one. It wasn't really a track per se, but a part of the riff was actually used for Santeria, so it got reworked into Santeria. That's pretty cool. Here's the CD. Yeah. This was also like that in the original, but it didn't have the Gasoline Alley records on it. It's pretty much just black. It's literally all it is. Yeah, they didn't have a lot of They didn't have a lot of money when they made this album, so they recorded in crack houses and had one song recorded in the studio. Oh, here's the back, by the way. The back's still the same. I think most of it is still the same as the other. I think most of it is still the same as like the other ones. Yeah, you can see all the track listings, some pictures. Got like the thanks, including Gwen Stefani and others. Here's all the pictures. There's Eric. Well, they actually have them listed here. I hope you can see this. I'm not really like good with the whole fold out thing, so I'm just gonna scroll it along the camera. You'll see. You can even see the 40 ounces to freedom thing. Oh, my thing flew. Okay. Well then, that was the entire discography for Sublime. I'd say it's pretty solid lineup. It's definitely an underrated lineup. Robin the Hood had a lot of potential, and could you just imagine the amount of potential if they had the money at the time? It would have been like really good. It would have been as good as this one, as 40 Ounces of Freedom. Now, I obviously like the self-titled, but I do like the tracks on here as well. It's pretty fun. Now, obviously, that's not like everything. Well, it's not like everything they've ever released, because they had other releases after this, like Secondhand Smoke, which I do have, by the way. They had Stand By Your Van, which is a live album, and recently they had another live album called $5 at the Door, which was at Trestle Tavern in November of 1994, but it was released in 2023 on CD. And then they had the Long Beach Dub All-Stars, or something like that, where it had Eric Wilson and Bud Goff from Sublime as part of another group. That's all I gotta say. Have a good night, my Ohioans.